very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Addy. I am the marketing coordinator for 4S Consulting Services, Inc. I welcome you all for the virtual roundtable on Occupational Health and Safety Roadmap for Accreditation, which is the Supporting Ontario's Safe Employers Program. How can employers optimize their OHS journey towards MLTSD, that's Ministry of Labor Training Skills Development's accreditation program? We have a wonderful set of OHS experts and authorities to get into a roundtable discussion on that and give you lots of insights on that. So let me quickly let you know who we have on the panel today. Let's start with Ron Kelusky. Ron is our CPO. Welcome to the webinar, Ron. Kate Cowan and Richard Burton from the Ministry of Labor Training and Skills Development. And Kate's already here, and Richard will be joining us a little later. And thank you very much for making it. Rod Cook from Wsib. Thank you so much, Rod, for supporting us with this event. And Tyler from behind the scenes. Tyler, you're also a big support for us. Enzo Garritano from the IHSA, thank you very much for making it to this webinar. David Frame from the OGCA, thank you for supporting us with this. And David is also going to be representing the OGCA membership. OGCA is partnering with 4S in this event, and thank you so much for that. And we have SOBE, our Vice President from 4S Consulting. So there are many people in this webinar who are non-4S clients, who are not 4S clients, who don't know what 4S is. So a quick gist of what 4S is. We are Canada's leading occupational health and safety training, consulting, and software company supporting small, medium, large, and Fortune 500 companies with maintaining OHS compliance. In consulting, we provide ISO 45001 and core support services. And we have ISO 45001 lead auditors as well as external auditors for IHSA. SOBE is both an ISO lead auditor as well as a core external auditor. And we also are WSIB approved providers for the WSIB Excellence Program. And we have an SME program, and we tie the Excellence Program into the SME program. And we provide a wide range of customized OHS consulting services. In training, we are Chief Prevention Officer approved training providers for JHSC e-learning and virtual learning. So earlier, part 1 of JHSC was 3 days. Thanks to the efforts of the CPO, it's now 2 days. You can do it as an e-learning module in 15 hours. And part 2 will be a virtual live interaction with the trainer. So we do that, as well as blended working at heights, which is part 1. The theory part can be done online. And we have 80+ online trainings available, along with classroom and virtual trainings. In system, we have a proprietary online safety management software called ForSafeCom, which is used by over 600,000 workers across Canada. We constantly partner with the government and industry leaders, the wonderful set of them that you see right here, to help employers get insights through these kind of events. Now, something that I would like to say, because it's very crucial that this event is for you. Please understand that you are the ones who need to benefit with the insights. So we want you to engage with us. There's a Q&A box for you. Please ensure you put in your questions at regular intervals so that we can take those questions. We do have a 15 to 20 minute session right at the end allocated for the Q&A session. And we will try and take as many questions as we can. But if we cannot take a question because of time restrictions, do not feel that we are going to ignore the questions. We're going to take them offline to all the respective panelists and try and get you the responses. And the other thing I'd like to let you know, this webinar is being recorded. And the reason is there are many employers who are not able to make it to this webinar who would not want to miss out on these insights. So it's for us to share this with them through our digital media platforms, but we will get the approvals from all the respective panelists on this call before we do that. And without any further delay, let me now introduce our 4S moderator for today. Her name is SOBE Raghunathan. SOBE is our Vice President, Consulting and Training. And she has been supporting diverse Canadian businesses of different sizes in implementing and maintaining sustainable OHS programs SOBE is an IHSA external core auditor and ISO 45001 lead auditor, like I said, but one of the key things is SOBE participates with the OGCA's League of Champions to constantly work with the industry to promote strong safety leadership. SOBE also sits on the board of governors for the Ryerson University. And that's, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not going to bore you anymore. And let's get straight into the action because you've got a wonderful set of panelists. And let's move on to why we are here today, the OHS roadmap. You see a lot of possible optimization opportunities, and you have some great experts to talk your way through to accreditation and what are the best ways to do it. Let's now move on to the roundtable agenda. We're going to get Ron to get into action at 9:35. Ron's going to be giving us a quick overview of the SOSE, which is a Supporting Ontario Safe Employers Program, and the OHS journey. And then after that, SOBE is going to pass it over to Rodney Cook. Rodney Cook is going to be talking about the Wsib Excellence Program and the benefits from that program and the link to SOSE for earning rebates for small businesses. Then it's going to be Enzo's turn to explain what the IHSA is doing and how it's helping in terms of the transition timelines from Core 2015 to 2020 and how Core 2020 certified employers can actually apply for SOSE and what's the equivalency requirements for ISO 45001 to Core 2020. Then we're going to get Ron back into action along with his lovely team of Kate and Richard from the MLTSD to expand a little more on MLTSD's Supporting Ontario Safe Employers program. Once that is done, we're going to get our industry panelists, the representative of the OGCA membership and a representative, you can say, of the GC fraternity. David Frame to talk about how SOSE can be actually a very good investment option, a safety investment option for core certified as well as in progress GCs, and expand on OGCA's membership challenges, if there's any, with the SOSE program. After that, we're going to be going right into the action for a 10-minute quick roundtable between the CPO, IHSA, Wsib, and OGCA along with 4S to debate on the best possible options for you employers out there. And after that, we're going to jump into a quick 20-minute Q&A session to take as many questions as possible and try and take other questions offline. After that, we're going to have a hard stop at 11. So if we still have about 15-minute buffer after 10:45, the questions are very much there. That's it as far as I'm concerned. And I will now pass it over to SOBE to quickly get going with Ron.
Thank you so much, Eddie, for the wonderful intro. Welcome each and every one of you for today's webinar. It is one of the most important webinars for all employers and key stakeholders to understand the roadmap that employers can actually take towards becoming the most safest employers in Ontario. We always say the roadmap should start with compliance, compliance being your minimum standards, and then you go through the journey with, sorry, Eddie, I only see you in the screen. Are you projecting anything? Sorry about that.
Yes, sure, sorry about that, SOBE.
So the journey should start with compliance, and once compliance is achieved, then we move on to either going towards core, ISO, and becoming the accredited safest employers in Ontario. It is a great pleasure to have such an awesome panelist today and really powerful panelists. They have given their time to be here to give you the right context towards accreditation and the various different programs for safety management system that are available in Ontario today. So I really appreciate each and every panelist who have dedicated their valuable time to join us today. We will start off with Ron, our wonderful, amazing CPO. In the last 3+ years, he has been with the Prevention Office. He's been the most approachable CPO who is being there for his stakeholders as well as employers and giving us the right context, the direction that's needed. Ron doesn't need much of an introduction, but I will do a formal introduction for Ron. It is a great pleasure to introduce Ron Kolowski as the Chief Prevention Officer. He oversees the Prevention Office within the Ministry of Labor, Training and Skills Development, and has a wide range of responsibilities, including working with Ontario's health and safety partners to prevent workplace injuries, illnesses, and fatalities. He also monitors the performance of Ontario's Occupational Health and Safety, setting province-wide training and safety program standards. Under his leadership, the Prevention Office has supported workplaces in Ontario to implement health and safety measures during the COVID-19 pandemic. This includes working on cross-government industry committees and producing hundreds of workplace guidance resources. Ron, I would like to invite you to actually set the context and give us the insight how this whole SOSE program evolved. I know it started from the Tony Dean's report. If you can give the attendees the right context as to how this whole thing evolved and why it's so important for each and every employer to understand this journey, I would really appreciate that. Thank you, Ron. I'll pass it over to you now.
Thank you, Sobi. Everybody can hear me, hopefully. We have a slide deck, I believe, an introductory slide deck. Before I start, I'd like to thank 4S, Sobi and Addie, as well as the OGCA and David Frame for hosting this event. I think it's very important, given where we are and what's happened with COVID. We launched this program actually in November of 2019 with the full intent of having a pretty robust 2020, but we all know what happened in March of 2020. And I think employers have been spending most of their time hanging on by their fingernails as the economy opened and closed and so on and so forth. So I think it's really important, and kudos to OGCA and 4S for bringing this topic up again, because coming out of COVID, there are some huge opportunities to not only help your business stay safe, but even more importantly, receive incentives to be able to do that. Just as a little history, back in 2009 and Christmas Eve, there was a swing stage collapse that resulted in the Tony Dean report. And there were 42 recommendations, one of which was to create a CPO. One of the other recommendations was starting to look at the importance of creating a standard that would promote the creation and interest in employers, not just taking a course, but developing a systemic approach to health and safety, or creating those, implementing those health and safety management systems that did a 360-degree effort, shall we say, on the employer's part and the worker's part to create that communication, that interactivity, the shared responsibility, not simply taking one course and figuring you're safe. And over the course, when the report was published in 2010, construction actually had started to approach this through the CORE program. And that was a program that was started out in Western Canada, and it migrated into Ontario. And the OGCA, as an example, was an early adopter in trying to encourage business to start focusing on health and safety management systems. And as government, takes its time, in 2016, we started consultations across various sectors, including labor and union, to change the CPO's powers to start to establish a standard and a process that would recognize health and safety management systems. And it was all based on initially the CSA Z1000 and iterations before ISO 45001. So we looked at those standards and created the CPO standard, and we wanted to look at what other health and safety management systems that were out there that could be equivalent to the CPO standard. And of course, we looked at CSA 18001 as being robust, ISO 45001. And we started to work with the construction industry because they had pretty much 8 years under their belt of encouraging the construction industry to adopt CORE as a best practice. And working with the OGCA, David and the former president of the OGCA, and with IHSA as the provider of CORE, we actually created a standard CORE 2020 that was equivalent to the ISO 45001 and 18001. And currently, right now, there are 4 recognized standards out there under the CPO. There is the CPO standard, there is the ISO 45001 standard, there is the CSA 18001, and the CORE 2020. And while we were doing this, we knew that the WSIB was sort of taking a hard look at its safety group program and work well programs. And we started conversations with them, both our Enzo from IHSA and Rod Cook, who is the Vice President of Health and Safety for WSIB. And we decided, is there a way that we can start linking all of these programs together to start encouraging people to take these health and safety management systems? And that's in fact what we did. We linked health and safety excellence to CORE, we linked it to ISO, we've linked it to the CPO standard, so that anyone who is pursuing these programs can receive rebates while they're going forward. So a company that is wanting to be ISO 45001, they can take the related programs and courses to achieve 45001 through WSIB and get a rebate. Same with CORE. And in fact, Rod and Enzo and myself, we have gone out to a number of sessions similar to this back when it was first launched to be able to demonstrate to people that we wanted to work together. We wanted to have people become more aware, and they wanted to see the advantages of pursuing a health and safety management system. And we're currently working with other organizations such as oil and gas and chemical that have very robust health and safety management systems. And we're working with them, like we did with CORE, to have them recognized as a CPO standard. So that once you complete your ISO, there is a process for which you can take advantage of both the recognition by the Chief Prevention Officer and the financial benefits that come from the WSIB. And as we move through this presentation, each of the representatives, both Rod, Enzo, and Kate, and myself, as we explain in more detail, you can see how these incentives and rebates to move forward can be accomplished. The 5-year strategy, Chief Prevention Officer strategy, was released last Friday. And one of the key pillars of the 4 pillars in that strategy is the move towards getting people to adopt a systemic approach, a health and safety management system, to incentivize them to be better. So we have a strategy, we have a program, we have early adopters, we've got lots of people participating. We certainly want more, and we'll explain some of the benefits, both financially and recognition-wise, for adopting this program. So without further ado, I think our next speaker is Rod Cook, who will talk about the pathway to accreditation. Thank you, Sobi.
Thank you so much, Ron, for the explanation. I think it really helps the participants understand what was behind it to take this road path forward. When we say the word safety management system, in the beginning stages, a lot of our clients pretty much, well, what are you talking about? Safety management system. And, you know, it is a new terminology as we have more and more sessions like this, as people get more engaged in choosing their path towards accreditation, core, ISO. I think they are getting much better understanding for what is a safety management system and what it encompasses. So moving on to our next presenter, Rodney Cook. It is a great pleasure to have Rodney join us today. He's the Vice President at Wsib, Workplace Health and Safety Services. He is recognized as an important figure in the advancement of integrated health and safety. He leads the team that has built and implemented the Wsib's new Digital Health and Safety Excellence Program, which aims to reduce workplace injuries. In addition, Rodney sits on the board of directors for the National Institute of Disability Management and Research, the Public Coast University for Workplace Health Science, Excellence Canada, and he also sits on the Council of Governors for the Center for Occupational Health and Safety, OHS. It is a great pleasure to have Rod join us today. His team has done a tremendous job in rolling out the Safety Excellence Program. I know Forrest has hosted a few sessions in the past in 2019 when we actually announced the Excellence Program and the partnership and how the Excellence Programs work. So today it is a great pleasure to have Rod kind of take us through the journey and explain the process. Thank you so much for joining us, Rod. I'll pass it over to you now.
Thank you, Sobi, for the introduction, and thanks, Ron, for setting great context around how the system is working together. That's really helpful. I always like to say when I talk about the Health and Safety Excellence Program, this is for businesses who are just starting off, and also for those who are aiming to achieve the highest level of recognition through the ministry's Supporting Ontario's Safe Employers program. If we can go to the next slide, I just want to take a couple of minutes to talk about what does returning to the new normal mean. As we head into phase 3, there are a few things to really consider as we get back to business and we start focusing on growing businesses again. One consideration is our awareness of health and safety has come to the forefront throughout the pandemic. So we have an opportunity to build on that awareness. What steps can businesses take to help them stay healthy and safe and make sure they're ready for another emergency? And as we return to a new normal, all those health and safety risks that existed before the pandemic will still be there. So how can we ensure that employees haven't forgotten about those risks and ensure that they're also ready for new risks since the pandemic? There's no doubt that the new normal is bringing additional risks and requirements for businesses. For example, commercial insurance may be requiring companies to have pandemic policies. Businesses will now have to show evidence that emergency management and health and safety programs are in place. Another new normal could be that expectations around supply chains. We saw a lot of vulnerabilities with disruption and shortages happening through the pandemic. Now businesses looking to secure supply contracts may need to demonstrate they have health and safety plans that work in emergency situations. Every employee is now much more mindful of their safety while at work as well. So the new standard means there's a new dimension to market competition. Both consumers and talent may choose more safe and ethical companies. The Ministry of Labor, Training and Skills Development has also increased the number of inspection officers, which will mean increased health and safety inspections on a go-forward basis. So how can we continue to invest in health and safety? How can we be prepared for the next pandemic or ensure that best practices are in place? What does that journey towards health and safety excellence look like? This is where the Health and Safety Excellence Program can help. In partnership with our health and safety program providers like 4S, who is hosting this event, we give business tools and supports to build strong, vibrant workplace safety culture. A recent article on the return on investment of safety published in Safety and Health magazine talks about how companies that demonstrate strong organizational support for safety experienced improvements not only in safety, but also in absenteeism, employee turnover, and other indicators of efficiency and employee well-being. In other words, the research shows that investing in health and safety is good for business. Investments in the health and safety program in particular will give businesses a return on investment through rebates on their Wsib premiums. And through participation in the program, businesses can also lower their premiums paid as a result of better performance in health and safety. We're currently in partnership with a study with the University of British Columbia on the effectiveness of the program, and the results look promising. Preliminary studies of our study with the Institute for Work and Health has found that an investment in health and safety of $1 returns an investment of $1 to $3 for every dollar invested in health and safety. So depending on the business, it's up to a 3 times return. So not only can businesses save money through the Health and Safety Excellence Program, but they can also strengthen their brand. This is so important for businesses right now who will continue to scrutinize for safe practices even after COVID-19 has settled down. The next slide, please, Sobi. The public can also see their accomplishments through our digital badge. You can see this through the Wsib safety check, where anybody can look up a business and see the injury and claims record, but also see the recognition of those who are in the Health and Safety Excellence Program. At the end of the day, the most important driver of investing in health and safety is the protection of your employees and customers. Customers want to feel safe knowing the workplace that they're entering is investing in protecting everybody. Next slide, please, Sobi. I use the word culture often when we talk about health and safety. And the Health and Safety Excellence Program offers the benefit to customers who are in the program, the use of our culture survey. You may have heard the Drucker term, culture eats strategy for lunch. This implies that your company's culture always determines success, regardless of how effective your strategy is. So we know how to build a more robust health and safety system. You need a solid and positive workplace culture. You need leadership commitment, and you need a resilient, engaged workforce. Involving your employees and understanding the importance of physical and mental health is paramount to success. And this is one of the advantages of being in the Health and Safety Excellence Program, is the access to our health and safety culture survey. This gives a good sense to businesses of where workers stand with regard to understanding health and safety in the workplace. It helps give a snapshot of how healthy and safe your employees feel about the workplace. And it's easy to complete, and it's anonymous. Based on our initial analysis of over 5,000 responses of those who have participated, we're seeing a strong correlation between health and safety workplaces with positive results in trust, employee involvement, and employee empowerment. Next slide, please, Sobi. So the WSIB and the Ministry of Labor, Training and Skills Development have committed to helping make Ontario the safest workplace. And Ron talked about the integration of the system and the integrated health and safety roadmap. As some of you know, the Health and Safety Excellence Program is an amalgamation of our legacy programs. This roadmap was designed to help employers improve their health and safety programs, whether they're starting or already have a robust system in place. It doesn't matter where you are in terms of your maturity. The first 3 circles you see are related to the Health and Safety Excellence Program, and we've broken the program down into accessible levels. The foundation level is where a business would start their journey. And I'll show a list of topics available to work on each of the levels in the next slide. But in general, the foundation level focuses on helping businesses lay the groundwork of an essential health and safety program. The intermediate level is where businesses start to work on their health and safety management systems, integrating their health and safety program into processes, operations, and activities. And in this level, there's 17 topics. Now, businesses starting at an advanced level will work on topics that optimize their system. It ensures it's working to prevent injuries and illnesses. And at this level, employers focus on the continual assessment and control of hazards and sustaining their program. WSIB's Health and Safety Excellence Program was designed to be the first step in helping businesses start at the foundation and work their way through to being recognized by the Chief Prevention Officer. That's the desired outcome. Not all businesses will choose this path, but the path is clear for those businesses who want to achieve excellence and get support along the way. Once an employer works their way through the WSIB HSEP program, Health and Safety Excellence Program, they would be well positioned to have their occupational health and safety management system audited by a third party and prepare themselves for accreditation through the ministry and the CPO. I'm going to talk about the financial rebates in just a minute. And these rebates are available through the Health and Safety Excellence Program, and employers can offset the costs of getting these certifications, which can be pricey to obtain. As we've shown, business progress through the Health and Safety Excellence journey, they can work towards accreditation by the CPO, accredited standards such as Core 2020, and once they've been achieved, there is the option for further rebates through the ministry's Supporting Ontario's Safe Employers program, where the WSIB also offers rebates in that program. Our intent here is to make it easy to work towards accreditation. When HSEP was designed, we aligned our topics to core ISO and the CSA. This slide shows all the topics in each of the HSEP levels. The next slide, please. To note, the program connects members with a dedicated health and safety provider who will help them develop these topics. We currently have 22 WSIB approved providers, one of which is 4S. Okay, so I just want to take a minute here and talk about the rebates now. So to calculate your rebate with respect to entering into the program, when you're completing your health and safety excellence topics, the best way to do this is to access WSIB's Compass tool. If you haven't done this already, I'll encourage you to explore this tool. It gives you access to a wealth of information on your health and safety history, as well as the information in the prior year around premiums and what we call predictability. Predictability is the amount of impact your claims experience will have on your premium. So suppose your predictability is less than or equal to 20%. In that case, you fall into the low predictability category and you have less of an impact on your premium. Because of this, the businesses that are in low predictability get a 2% rebate per topic. I've included 4 examples here so you can get a sense of the rebates through the Health and Safety Excellence Program. The first one that I'm showing is a small business, and it shows how our minimum funding floor of $1,000 per topic, up to 75% of annual premiums, can work towards small businesses. So, you know, if a small business paying $7,000 in premiums and completes 5 topics, small businesses are typically low predictability. They would earn a $5,000 rebate on completing those 5 topics. And you can see, get an example of medium businesses and large businesses where the rebate as a percentage of the premiums can get quite large. The maximum per topic is $50,000, which would obviously be for a business that is paying quite high premiums. If you go to the next slide, the rebates continue. So if you think about the roadmap that I showed and going through the 36 topics of the Health and Safety Excellence Program, And a business that now wants to achieve accreditation through the Chief Prevention Officer and get recognized for their achievements, we've outlined further rebates. If the company meets the WSIB criteria following being accredited by the ministry, it can receive additional financial refunds for 3 consecutive years. The rebate from WSIB depends on several factors, including premiums, predictability, scoping percentage in the year in the program. And the financial rebates are capped at $300,000 for year 1, $200,000 for year 2, and $100,000 for year 3. And again, you can see some examples. We've continued with those examples of companies, medium and large, and what it would look like in terms of them accessing rebates under the Supporting Ontario Safe Employer program. I can share with you that to date, 3 employers have been recognized through the SOSE program and been recognized with rebates through the WSIB for a total of $115,000 in rebates. I can tell you in the Health and Safety Excellence program, where we currently have over 2,300 companies registered, this year, we've actually given over $6 million in rebates through that program. So if we go to the last slide, I recognize this is a lot of information in a very short period of time, and we'll be having a roundtable session after. So I look forward to answering any questions that you may have. I want to thank FORES again for allowing me to engage and talk about the Health and Safety Excellence program, and hopefully draw a picture for you about how the system is working together and how the Health and Safety Excellence program can help you achieve different forms of accreditation, including the Supporting Ontario Safe Employers. And with that, I'll pass it back to Sobi.
Thank you so much, Rod, for taking us through those details. Especially for the participants, it is very important for them to understand the various different stages within the excellence program, possible rebates. At FORES, we do maintain and support clients of various different sizes, from a large portfolio of SMEs to Fortune 500 large organizations. They all have different journeys, and it is very important for them to understand, especially for a small, medium-sized organization. The common question they ask is, okay, I will do whatever it takes to be in compliance, but why do I need other things? And then we talk about excellence and safety management system and some possible rebates. So your presentation really clarifies that if they were to choose 5 topics and successfully complete those 5 topics, $5,000 is what they can get, as long as they have about $7,000 in premiums that they pay. So it is a very important information, a key takeaway for the participants. So as minimum as $7,000 by participating in the program and successfully completing, you would walk away with $5,000 in rebate. So that's kind of like, it's paying you to participate in a program like this and to stay engaged. It's a small incentive, but it encourages many businesses to take the path to move forward. And one of the things that we work with our clients is our intention is safety culture. It is not just about you getting accredited or, getting your course certification. It is a journey, and it is all about you having a safety culture, a sustainable safety culture. Despite the internal auditor who comes and leaves, or despite any of the various different individuals in the organization, when you have a safety culture, your program will be sustained and you could maintain and stay on top of all the health and safety initiatives. And our intention is working with each and every one of our clients to take them through the path to become the safest employers in Ontario. It's not just getting core ISO, it is also carry the brand as being a safest employer, because we do affect people's lives and their livelihoods. And it is a huge responsibility as an employer. So thank you so much, Rod, for that detailed information. I'm sure we are going to have great insight discussions that's going to take place in the next few minutes. That being said, let me introduce you to Enzo. official introduction to Enzo. Eddie, can you, thank you so much. And so it's a great pleasure to have you join us. Enzo Garritano is the president and CEO of IHSA. Enzo has been with the association for over 23 years in his current role as a CEO since 2016. Prior to joining IHSA, Enzo was a graduate of University of Waterloo in civil engineering and worked in the heavy civil road building, sewer, water main sectors for 7 years. Enzo is passionate about helping workers return home healthy and safe each day and assisting employers in integrating health and safety into their operations to improve business success. Enzo is also a father of 2 daughters and a son, all in their 20s. And so you don't look that old, and enjoys his newfound spare time mountain biking, skiing, and other outdoor activities. And so it is a great pleasure to have you, especially to take us through the core journey. And if you can, help us understand, especially the participants, because currently majority of them are in core 2015. They need to understand how they can transition into core 2020, and from there, how they can possibly become the safest employers. So thank you, Enzo, and I'll pass over to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Sobi. And again, appreciate the opportunity to speak today. This is a great event to hold and really increase that communication and level of understanding in the industry. So thanks again for that. Also, quick congratulations to Ron on the release of the strategy, because recognizing and focusing on health and safety management systems is the right way to go. We all know that, but integrating into the strategy is bringing it to the new level. We know through evidence, and I know Rod mentioned University of British Columbia and the research they've done on health and safety management systems through CORE in BC, in Alberta, and now in Saskatchewan just released. The evidence is there. The evidence says, and the reason we're all here is to prevent injuries, is to reduce the number of serious injuries and to reduce the number of lost time injuries in the sectors that we serve. And those research programs that UBC has done has demonstrated that 16 to 17% reduction in serious injuries and lost time injuries to core companies versus companies who are not, or like companies, like size, like sector, but are not in core. So we're going to be doing a similar research study here. It's going to be commencing very shortly in Ontario, because we all know that we like to see things homegrown and to see what's happening in Ontario. As CORE has now been here for about 8 years since we introduced it, and again, thanks to OGCA's leadership there as well in helping IHSA move CORE forward. We're going to see hopefully similar results in Ontario. And again, this is why we're all here. And when we speak about CORE or any occupational health and safety management system, whether it's ISO, the British Standard 18001, or CSA, it is a journey. And there is now, and we're really happy to see that, as Rod mentioned, we've aligned ourselves very, very well with WSIB's Health and Safety Excellence Program and the Ministry supporting Ontario's safest employers. There's many of those topics. They align very well. I believe our CORE has about 29 of those topics of the 36, 37 topics that are aligned very well and can be chosen or selected, whether you're beginning your journey or whether you're already at CORE or whether you're transitioning from CORE to CORE 2020. So there's a number of programs or a number of elements that you can work on regardless of where you're at. But the big thing I do want to, maybe one big takeaway here for those on the webinar, is sustain those elements. When you're working through the excellence program, think about the future. There's a lot of small businesses here, and I'm sure every small business or many small businesses want to get bigger, want to be more successful and continue that journey in the business. And as you do that, you'll find that more buyers are going to be requiring it, or more general contractors may start to require certification to some standard, whether it's CORE, whether it's ISO or other. And to do that, you need to sustain your operations. You need to sustain the momentum you've carried by taking those topics and successfully challenging them. So that's the big, I think, takeaway is, as the diagram showed, Rod's diagram, there's the foundational pieces and there's intermediate and there's the more senior, but it's like a house, it's like a structure. Continue to build that foundation up. Don't do the elements and then drop off and say, I'm going to focus on the next 5 elements and forget the first 5. sustain them. And if you do that, keep an eye on the health and safety management systems because they require that sustainment of those topics. So that's the big, I think, takeaway here before getting into some of the areas that really I was here for, and that's to talk about things like the timelines for transitioning from core to core 2020. We introduced core 2020 in late 2019 as well, as the ministry and Ron's group recognized core in SOSE. So with that, we've given, I think, a lot of time for companies to transition and to move over. And right now, when we think about the timelines, we have essentially two timelines. One is for any company who's new, brand new, who wants to go on the journey of core. And again, we encourage you to start early. You are going to utilize, you have a choice. You can utilize either core 2015 or the new core 2020 up until December of this year. Okay, so when you submit your first internal audit on that journey, if you're new, absolutely new, you're not core certified already, you can select which one you want until December of this year. After December 1st, you need to submit your internal audit to core 2020. Okay, for those who are already core certified and you're maybe on a maintenance audit, you don't need to transition to core just yet, to core 2020 just yet, unless you want to, of course. So when it comes to transitioning over to core 2020, we're looking for anybody who's doing an external audit to core 2020 the deadline is to start that in October 1st of 2022. So there's a year and a bit. So if you're already, let's say you did your core audit a year ago and your next one is in 2023, at 2023, that's when you have to do your core 2020 audit. Right up until November 30th of next year of 2022, you can still audit to core 2015, which would then buy you up until 2025 to end the journey, to continue the journey to core 2020, which is your next external audit. Now, these are all outside limits. You can do it at any time. You can transition. You can use our transition tool. Currently, if you just got core even a year ago, you can use the transition tool and move into core 2020 with a successful submission to us. The information's on our website in regards to being able to do that. So you can challenge it at your next maintenance audit. Submit your gaps, and there's about 3 gaps between core 20 and core 2015 and core 2020 that you need to demonstrate adherence to and compliance to and evidence for it. And then we'll grant you the core 2020 as well. So there's a number of options there to do so. And that'll get you, again, that'll start your journey towards the ministry's supporting Ontario's safest employers recognition. And that's the next item I want to talk about is whether or not, core 2020 certified firms are able to apply for the ministry's recognition. And the answer is yes, of course. That's what the intent was. Core 2020 is an accredited program. You can submit your audit or evidence of compliance to Core 2020, along with other application information and criteria that's required by the ministry to submit for SOSE. And we definitely encourage everyone to do so. We're going to be engaged in that very soon. We just got our external audit to Core 2020 and we're successful. As we completed our gaps through the Health and Safety Excellence Program, as most of you could, if you're on that journey, and we'll be applying to the Supporting Ontario Safest Employers program as well. So we encourage everyone to go down that route. So again, also regardless of which provider you're using for your Health and Safety Excellence Program, whether it's IHSA, whether it's 4S or anybody else, again, keep your eye on whatever occupational health and safety management system you're looking to move toward. Keep your eye on that and use it as your roadmap as you again transition forward and become more mature in your health and safety management system through the excellence program. That's going to be key. Otherwise, you'll be doing a lot of work and then you'll be doing a lot of catch up when you need to submit for the recognition under the SOSE program. So I think the last item here, and I know the time is running forward, is ISO versus CORE. And they're both occupational health and safety management systems. As Ron mentioned earlier, they're very, very similar. The models are very, very close. CORE is maybe more of a roadmap and more prescriptive in nature, where ISO, you'll have to kind of create your roadmap yourself. So they're both occupational health safety management systems. A lot of questions are coming out. Well, people are saying, well, ISO is easier to get than CORE 2020 or vice versa. And the answer is they shouldn't be. They're both systems. They both require evidence. What we look at for equivalency are a number of things, and I'll get into that in a second. But essentially, scope is extremely important. With CORE, we look at your Wsib account number, and all the activities, when you submit for CORE, you're getting certified to that account number, which means all the activities under that account need to be part of your audit, need to be part of your system. Okay, so if you're a construction firm and you do also have a shop, and that's under the same account number, your office, your shop, your construction activities all need to be audited, all need to be part of that scoping. And we encourage those who are going through ISO, whatever you're being told, we're going to expect that scope to be the same. So if for whatever reason, the scoping is more limited for when you go down the ISO road, think about if you're looking for equivalency and you're looking to perhaps also bid and the buyers are requiring that, scope is very important. Do the entire scope of your operations, because if you don't, you're going to get bad news from us. Okay, so with regards to equivalency, we are looking for a valid certificate by an IAF approved or accredited firm doing your audit. So there's going to be a symbol there. If they're IAF accredited, there's going to be a symbol on the certificate. We're going to ask for a copy of your ISO audit. And we're looking for also compliance to Ontario legislation, which means there's got to be some Ontario activities. If there isn't, we're going to go a slightly different route to give you opportunities to get equivalency. But with that, we'll be looking at your entire audit. The scope has to be, again, full company. And once we go through that, we're going to give you a certificate for 1 year that says equivalency to CORE 2020. And at that point, it says equivalency. You can go ahead and do your bidding. Hopefully that'll provide the buyer enough evidence to go forward on that. And in the following year, if you don't go towards the audit with CORE, you can continue on with your ISO, but you'll have to reapply to us for equivalency for the next year. So it's a 1 year period. That's what we're giving you equivalency for. Now, if you come from out of province and you don't have Ontario-based work or evidence of Ontario-based work, we're going to give you what we call reciprocity. We're going to say, all right, if everything still looks good, valid certificate with a valid watermark of that accredited, IAF accredited company, which has oversight for the audit. Your recent audit report, we're going to say, all right, if everything fits well, we'll give you the reciprocity letter so you can bid. Bidders and buyers pick up that reciprocity letter. But if you win the bid, you're going to have to get audited and prove that the Ontario work now in compliance is in place. Okay, and that typically happens within a year. We give you the year's limit to do that, and then you'll get your CORE 2020 equivalency. So hopefully that clarifies that part. But again, going down this route is the right thing to do, and we encourage everyone to go there. Ask us a lot of questions, ihsa.ca/core. The information is there, or give us a call, our contact information on our website, and we'd be happy to call you to have that communication and try to guide you down the right road in regards to occupational safety management systems and into CORE if that's your choice. And I think looking at the time, we can certainly answer questions later on, but again, thanks again for having us here, and hopefully it's clarified some questions and certainly able to answer questions during the Q&A.
Thank you so much. And so I know you will be having the most number of questions, so be prepared for that. In terms of setting the context of core, very prescriptive. Again, some of the key points that I normally address to all of our clients who are kind of in that crossroad, wondering, should I go with ISO, should I go with core? The normal recommendation we give them is, if you are a construction company that is mainly doing services in Ontario, confined to Ontario, then stick to core. That may be easier route for you to go through the journey. If you are an international organization or do have clients outside of Canada and also across the country, and also you're not in the defined construction arena, then ISO 45000 would be a wiser choice for you. And sometimes you have already addressed the question, if they go to our ISO and then certain buyers are particularly asking for core, what they should be doing, you hit the points right there, what they really need to know. The scope is very, very important. And one of the common things that we normally get to hear from most of our clients is, why is the core journey so long compared to ISO? And we tell our clients, it does not matter whether it's core or ISO, it's the same journey. It's your health and safety management system. And if you have very basic program or just a basic compliance program, then the journey is going to be longer, where it's 12 to 18 months. And that's the term and timelines that IHSA has been using in the past as well. And sometimes we do hear clients coming back, why is it so long? You know, I should be able to get it done in 6 months or 3 months or 8 months. And it is, you have to implement the program. You need to communicate your program. Then you need to actually show consistent documentation saying that the program is being maintained. Whether it's ISO audit or core, it's the same thing. It's management system audits. Right. So
yeah, and I'd love to quote someone who did a principal of a company who said, you have to leave your ego at the door when you start this journey. People think that they are in a good position and have a great system in place. IHSA, we took 2.5 years. We're a health and safety association. We started early, but we were, after our amalgamation, we were 3 different companies trying to come into one. And until we did core, I think at that point we became one company. But you had to really keep your ego at the door and say, what are we really? Let's do an audit. Let's do a baseline review, and let's identify the gaps, and let's work together to make it better and not assume anything at the start.
Thank you so much for expanding on that. You said it took IHSA 24 months. I'm sure John is sitting there going, music to my ears, because he deals with, as part of BD, he deals with all the challenges, and what he hears from potential clients is, oh, you know, I have somebody else who's telling me I could get it done in 6 months or 9 months. You know, why are you guys saying 12 to 18 months? This is too much time. And that's the common opposition that we always hear from employers is, why is it so long?
I think,
sorry, Ron, go ahead.
So I think, Sophie, it's really important to note that when people make an application for any accredited program, the first thing we look at is, how long did the audit take and how much did the audit cost? Because depending on the complexity of the organization, if we see an audit that came in that took a day and they only charged you $1,000 and you're a fairly large and complex company, don't call us, we'll call you. That will be the response.
Thank you so much, Ron, for that. And so I could speak as a co-external associate auditor. When we do the scope for external audits for core, you know, it's a very rigorous process. You look at all the details, and then based on the number of sites, number of employees, everything else, you come up with the scope and the site visits and everything else. And Ron, thanks for actually emphasizing on that detail, because we have heard stories from certain clients. They say it's easier to get ISO versus core, which you already addressed, and it is the scope that they need to pay attention to. Because with ISO, you can kind of carve out a scope based on which areas of the organization that you want to be audited, whereas with core, you don't have that luxury. So thank you so much. There are a few questions. I encourage each and every one of you to post your questions, and we will try to answer them as we go through and as well as towards the end. There's one question I will actually bring up right now, which Mike Mancini has asked. Are we going to move towards C-Core? I know the answer that we had in the past few seminars, but so why don't you address that?
Yeah, so as far as the C-Core or small core, right now, and there's a couple of things. You'll see the evidence from UBC as well doesn't demonstrate improvements in occupational health and safety outcomes with that program right now. As we journey in our research over the next year, we'll be looking at the same thing. What's key is for small businesses is not necessarily everything applies to you in the core audit. Again, the core audit, the core 2020 standard now is generic for all sectors. Certainly the tool, you'll look at the tool and you'll look at some of the requirements because you're a smaller firm don't apply to you if you're micro or you're really small. So we're finding that there's also a change in the view of C-Core across our colleagues across the country as well. We sit with the Canadian Federation of Construction Safety Associations who oversee core and oversee core. And some of them do have a small core program and many don't. And again, they're looking at those programs more succinctly because their compensation boards are also looking at the lack of improvement. But some of them are looking at it and changing them. I believe one of them is Saskatchewan, if I'm not wrong, that they're changing it as well to be more like core, where there's third-party audits instead of peer-to-peer audit, which happens in some C-Core, some small business, small core sectors or provinces. So they're changing, they're migrating. And as we do that, we'll also look at the core questions themselves and which ones are the real important ones. And if we can make the core process more efficient from that perspective, but it's all based on research as well. So it's a little bit early in that, but no, we're not going down the C-Core or small business or small core just yet. We'll look at the tools that we use and we'll try to migrate those to better reflect the requirements of small business.
Thank you so much for answering that, Enzo. And the attendees who have attended today who represent general contractors, I would highly advise, and I'm sure David can expand on that towards the end, is recommend and encourage all the subcontractors to start their journey either with excellence or go towards core. It's better to have a safety management system, and we spoke about return on investment, 3 times the return. And it's also a peace of mind to have a safe and healthy work environment. Which will be much more highly productive environment as well. So it is all of our responsibility to take the message out to the small employers or the subcontractors who still feel that, oh, I don't need to worry about any of this, to get them to start understanding they should start with a safety management system. It doesn't matter which one, but they should start with either the excellence program or towards the core, because core is very prescriptive. They know exactly what they need to do, how they are going to maintain it, and it's going to really give them the framework to manage their health and safety program. That being said, considering time, I do want to move on to our next presenters, MLTSD. So let me formally introduce Kate Cowan. Kate is currently the Director of Training and Awareness Branch, which is part of the Prevention Division of MLTSD. She has dedicated her dynamic career to supporting individuals and communities through her work with the Ontario Public Services and its agencies and as a committed volunteer. She has supported enterprise-wide transformational strategies in several ministries, including Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care, Ministry of Community and Social Services, Ministry of Education, and many more. Community support initiatives includes being a vice chair of a son's daycare, strategic planning chair for a community services organization supporting adults with disability, and member of a local women's shelter. Kate, it is a great pleasure to have you join us today. And with you, I'm going to do the intro for Richard. Richard Burton is the Manager of Health and Safety Training Administration and Certification Unit within the Ministry of Labor, Training, Skills Development as part of the Prevention Office. Richard's team at MLTSD does include managing the oversight of training delivery for IHSA certification, as well as working at heights training. On behalf of the CPO, their team administers the support for Ontario's Safe Employers SOSE program and OHS Accreditation and Employer Recognition program. Richard has been an OHS practitioner for 29 years, holding many different roles with the ministry and Wsib, which includes inspector, coordinator of OHS training for small business owners, and managing different portfolios such as safety audits teams, such as the old workflow audits, program developers, inspectors, and training assessors. It is a great pleasure to have both Kate and Richard join our CPO, Ron Kolowski, today for their presentation and giving us further context about the SOSE program. I'll pass it over to the team, MLTSD team now. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sobi, for that warm introduction. And so nice to see everyone on the panel and to everyone who's here today. Thank you so much for taking your time to come out and listen to us. Sobi, I note the time, so I'm going to try to get through this pretty quickly. So slide 4 is where we'll pick this up. And this is around the outcomes or the benefits of an implemented OHSMS. And I think we've heard, Ron, Enzo, and Rod all speak to that. So firms who have implemented it, again, we are seeing research that's coming out. Sorry, if you could go a couple more slides. I guess the numbering changed between, perfect, thank you. We are seeing research coming in, so absolutely that UBC study, and we'll be very interested to hear what's happening specifically in Ontario. And it's fantastic as we also have the SOSE program now with 3 recognized employers, as Rod had mentioned. Now we have a unique data set there as well that we can use going forward. So of course, having an OHSMS feeds higher employee morale and retention, because we've now got employees participating, feeling safe with the climate, as Rod had mentioned as well, fewer injuries, long-term lost time injuries, and fewer worker compensation costs. We are also seeing a shift in procurement strategies. And again, it's been mentioned earlier today around, a benefit, long-term hope is that the supply chain will also be influenced. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this slide, I think, has actually been spoken about. There are different OHSMSs that will be recognized. Our CPO standards are flexible to permit accreditation through the 3 types of standards here. So international standards, industry-based standards, and organization-based standards. And Ron mentioned earlier today as well that we are working with some organizations that have long-standing established occupational health and safety management systems like oil and gas and the chemical industry to help them meet CPO standards as well. Slide 6, please, or next slide. Thanks. So these next few slides are a bit of a technical walkthrough, and if there are technical questions, feel free to ask them in the chat pod, or if there isn't enough time today, we'll absolutely work back through Sobi and her team to get responses back out to folks. So this is, building on that roadmap that Rod had included, that last bubble was around that CPO recognition piece. And so these are the different elements of that particular process. So the very first thing you need to do is determine which CPO accredited system you either have or want to implement. When you're ready, you arrange for that third-party auditor to validate and implement through the audit process. If you pass the audit, the employer then applies to us for employer recognition. We do a lot of checking internally, which I'll talk about in a few slides. And then officially, the CPO will recognize the employer and refer that name of the employer onto the Wsib for consideration of financial reimbursement there. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the first thing that an organization would need to do is select and implement the accredited OHSMS. So employers will need to take a look at gaps in their own system. I heard Enzo say, check your ego at the door. You may find some things that you hadn't been expecting. So a gap analysis, how to resource implementation. Are you using your own staff, contractors, safety associations? You're going to test that your systems work. And then the next step is arranging that third-party audit lead to independently verify your implementation. Next slide, please. So I think Ron had mentioned in his opening remarks as well that there had been significant consultation over a number of years following the Tony Dean report and getting to where we are today. So it was unanimous in the consultations that the integrity of the lead auditor be upheld through consistent standards. So employers arranging for legitimate third-party audits need to ensure that the organization they approach to obtain the auditor is properly certified with a certification body or a CPO governing body of auditors. And so at the moment, the CPO accepts certification bodies meeting either the ISO 17021 or 17024 standards. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so at this point, you've had some success. You are ready to now submit your application. The item here that we really want to emphasize is that the audit can be no more than 12 months old. If it is more than 12 months old, it is not eligible for any further review at the ministry level. So the ministry will, as Ron was saying earlier as well, if it was only 1 day and $1,000, we'd also have some questions around that. So this really is, again, back to the integrity and the overall, principles of health and safety with the program. Next slide, please. Thank you. So application review. So there is a small team in the ministry who works certainly with Richard, and then also across the ministry. So we've got a Cpo Review Committee that has colleagues from our policy branch, from our legal services team, someone from the Fair, Safe, and Healthy Workplaces division as well, and a couple of others. And Wsib is an ex officio member on that committee. And the team does a number of checks, again, to make sure that it has met all of the requirements, including detailed verification of the applicant's health and safety history with the ministry, so verified that it's clean and we can move forward. Again, that validation of that third-party audit element, the 12 months of the application, lead auditors, all of those different elements. We want to ensure that there are no outstanding orders related to JCERT or HSR within the past 3 years, ensure that the employer has no Part 3 convictions for violations of the OSHA in the last 3 years, and also making sure that the employer has no unresolved Part 3 prosecutions under OSHA in the last 3 years. So ultimately, all of these elements get reviewed by our team. We meet collectively and a recommendation is made. And then, as we've heard, we've had 3 that have in fact been recognized. There are benefits to recognition in addition, of course, to actually having the health and safety management system, up and running and doing what it's supposed to be doing. So there are some branding opportunities. You see here on the upper right quadrant, the logo that is available for use by recognized employers. They get a letter from the Chief Prevention Officer. It's a 3-year recognition. Organizations do need to submit an annual report or a maintenance report to ensure that they are continuing to meet the standards they need to meet. Names are also included on the ministry website. And again, there are some branding opportunities. And the next slide was around the financial incentives. I think Rod did a great job outlining those in his presentation. So I hope I've made up a bit of time for you there, Sophie. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kate. And I'm sure there's going to be many questions in regards to the SOSE program. There's one, actually, you know what? I'm going to keep the questions to the last. Let David do his presentation. So there are key things that you identified, which is whatever, when they're applying for SOSE program, whether they have a core external audit report or ISO external audit report, it had to be within 12 months. So those are some of the key dates to remember for people if they are moving towards applying for SOSE. And I would encourage each and every one of the participants who have already got either core or ISO, move towards SOSE. You know, nothing should stop you from progressing towards SOSE. So that being said, let me move on to introduce David Frame, our next panelist. David needs no further introduction. Everybody knows David in the construction industry, but I will do a formal intro. David Frame is the Director of Ontario Relations, David is the Director of Government Relations with OGCA. David had dedicated 30 plus years to the promotion of workplace health and safety. He is a former Director of Prevention at Wsib and a former President at Occa. With OGCA, David has developed and implemented government relations and OHS strategy, and it's responsible for OGCA's strategic goal of a safer construction industry. He has coordinated a campaign that has reduced members' LTIs rate by 51% over the past 6 years. Key successful initiatives include introduction of Core to Ontario, development and rollout of the online Safety Pass orientation program, and League of Champions to promote and recognize safety excellence. David serves on many external advisory bodies, including Construction Employer Coalition, IHSA, Cpo, Metrolinx, and the Institute for Work and Health, among many others. It is a great pleasure to have you join us, David, and OGCA has been a great association partner for us. We have helped many of OGCA's clients get core certification as part of our support services. So it is a great pleasure to have you join us today, David. Over to you. Thank you.
Sobi, thank you so much, and thank you for doing this today. I've got a little different role here today, and I'll call myself chief cheerleader for these programs. And I'm going to encourage your members and those on the line to get very serious about taking advantage of the programs we've been talking about today. As cheerleader, though, I'm going to start with Ron Kolowski. I don't think it's been mentioned, but today is actually Ron's second last day on the job. Most people on their second last day of the job, I don't know, are packing up the books and things like that. But Ron has decided that he's going to pack in as many meetings as he can. And so Ron's probably on a marathon group of meetings today anyways. Special recognition to Ron. I could mention so many things. Ron mentioned the integration of CORE and the SOSE program. That was huge. And let me just say, it wasn't easy. It was a very difficult thing to say. And lesser people would have said, forget it. The construction industry can work with our program. But Ron made sure that there was full integration of CORE. Enzo came up with CORE 2020 to be able to make the grade. And it's all part of the relationship that's developed between Ron, his office, and the construction industry that has really helped this industry flourish in terms of health and safety over the last few years. And that's at a time when we really need it during COVID. So Ron, hats off to you and everything you've done, and you've deserved the rest you're going to get. So thanks, Ron. Next slide. First of all, let me just say that OGCA's mandate is to promote safety excellence throughout the construction industry. So we're not just here promoting it amongst members. We recognize that this is an initiative for the whole industry. And we've been working through a number of initiatives in the 10 years I've been with OGCA to do that. The major one has been CORE. And we got together with IHSA about 10 years ago and agreed to support IHSA bringing CORE to Ontario. And I got to tell you, the introduction and implementation of CORE has been the leading driver of the improvements that the construction industry has been making over the last 8 years. And as an example, 70% of the work delivered by OGCA members is delivered by members who are core certified. We're very proud of that. Over the years, we've had more and more of our members certified. Most of our large members are certified, and now many of the moderate sized ones are being certified. And the OGCA as a group has a 0.2 LTI rate compared to about a 1 for the construction industry. So what that means is our accident rate is about 20% of it is for the industry. And that shows a lot of dedication to health and safety. And it shows the advantage of using tools like CORE and the Excellence Program and others are having on the construction industry. Thank you. So at no time have you had more tools available to help you keep safe. There's a focus on, increasingly I'm asking you to have a focus on performance over compliance. And you've already had introduced to you and you're aware of the professional expertise that exists out there in the industry through groups like 4S, through IHSA, OGCA and the League of Champions that we're involved with focuses on the sharing of best practices. Health and safety in construction has increasingly been about developing good practices and sharing it with our competition. And nowhere has that been seen more than under COVID in the industry, sharing best practices to be successful. And now we have the advantage of having the WSIB's Occupational Health and Safety Excellence Program. We've got CORE 2020, and you're familiar now with the SOSE program. So never have you had more tools available to be good at health and safety. I'm going to talk about something that Rod mentioned, and this is fundamental. The return on investment goes far beyond program returns from direct financial incentives. So Ron mentioned the Institute for Work and Health Research. We're also working with that, and we're going to have a webinar probably in September, strictly looking at investment in health and safety and returns in health and safety. And initial results show that the construction industry on average is investing $3,600 per employee in workplace health and safety. That's a lot of money. That's a big commitment. And you might wonder why they do it. And increasingly we're found contractors report tangible benefits are equal or greater than the investment. So you invest that money, you get money back from the various programs that are out there. You get reduced rate from WSIB, and other programs are there to support it. But those are the direct ones. The interesting part are the non-tangible benefits, which include worker motivation, retention, improved productivity, corporate reputation, and others. And I'm going to focus on one of them. So our members time and time again tell us that employee retention is their toughest job. It's very tough to attract good employees, and it's even tougher to keep good employees. And good health and safety, effective health and safety, they tell us is one of the #1 differences in being able to do that. And so the reports that are coming out of IHSA say that if you invest $3,600 per employee, you're probably getting over $7,000 worth of value back. And that's huge. Health and safety is a good investment. And so I want you to take a look at the programs and not just look at the results of the programs you get back. If you put, let's just say it's going to cost you $5,000 or $10,000 to participate in the excellence program, and you think you're only going to get $5,000 back, and you say, well, I don't see the benefit in that. Well, the benefit really is that the excellence program is just giving you a down payment in the payment you're getting back. You're probably getting a 200% response back. And that leads us to the paradigm switch that's happening in the industry. The old attitude, and there's still a lot of it out there, is safety is the cost of doing business. I do safety because I'm required to, because I know I want to keep my workers safe. It's expensive. I'll do what I need to do, not what I should be doing. The new attitude is safety is a competitive advantage. And when you get a 200 times return on that, you'll see very successful firms, Ellis Dawn, Modern Agra, PCL, Gillum, and even some smaller firms investing in health and safety and getting a big return. I had one member, I'm not going to name him, he resisted doing core for years and years, and he finally did it. And by the way, he did it through 4S. Sylvie probably knows who I'm talking about. And he says, you know, not only am I safer, he says, but my sites run more efficiently, they're more effective, I get my jobs done faster, and I keep my employees. He says, it's the whole package. Core isn't just about safety, it's about running a more efficient and effective operation. And so this is part of better business. And so the new attitude is safety, core in particular, is part of the new competitive advantage that exists. And that's the way you've got to look at it. Next slide. So in conclusion, our most successful companies are usually the safest. So if you want to be amongst the most successful, I think you need to be amongst the safest as well. We encourage all to make a corporate commitment to safety in your business, build your own plan, take advantage of the programs that are available to you. Take advantage of the outstanding people who are there with 4S, with IHSA, and implement these programs. Lead with safety. Use it to hire the best talent and sell your approach to the owners. The owners are impressed by companies that are safe. And if I can put a plug in, join the League of Champions. So the League of Champions is a group of about 80 companies that are committed to health and safety and committed to sharing their ideas and their experience about health and safety to support a safer construction industry. Thanks, Sophie.
Thank you so much, David. It's all the points that you covered are very, very crucial points. I mean, being in the forefront, trying to talk to clients, encourage them to implement a safety management system. I mean, we have said this many times to many people who call us looking for a health and safety manual. We pretty much tell them there are many other companies out there who would support you with that. But if you are looking for safety management system implementation, it is a longer journey. Yeah. We are here to work with you. You know, we will coach you, mentor you through these processes. They are long-term journey, but it's about implementing a program that is going to be there, it's sustainable. And David, I'm sure you can attest to situations among the GCs, among your membership, where they have taken core because it is a mandate for buyers, and some of the employers do struggle when their internal auditor leaves. And we tell our clients that's because you are just depending on one person to pretty much tick off all the boxes to implement the program. Right. What you should be really doing is stepping back and go, I need to implement a safety management system. It is a commitment from top down, and we need to have more people involved. And that's why we always say your entire middle management team should be part of this process to actually get everybody's buy-in and kind of drill the message down and communicate it on a day-to-day basis with your workers. And whether it's construction, whether it's manufacturing, retail, service sector, it is the same thing. Unless we have the senior management's commitment, we cannot start this journey and take them through this journey. And, you know, in Ontario, we have many employers. We are the largest in the country when it comes to the number of employers. And we do need to carry the flag in actually promoting most of these employers to become the safest employer. So it is all of our responsibility to maintain the Ontario workplaces safe. That being said, it It is an honor to have Ron join us. As David mentioned, it is his second last day. Despite that, you know, he was willing to roll up his sleeve and say, okay, let me do this. Let me get the message out. And that is the commitment that we have from our CPO. And it is a tall task for the incoming CPO to fill Ron's commitments and engagements that he had with stakeholders. I'm sure that person is going to do an awesome job as well. But Ron, we really, really appreciate the leadership that you have taken us, the support that you have given the employers and the stakeholders. Thank you so much. If we have 1 minute left, we said we have a hard stop at 11. But let's see if we can answer some of the questions that have come in. I think one of the questions, there's two questions I saw that had to do with ISO to core equivalency. And so I think most of the people are looking for certain clarity. If they have the proper scope done where it's the entire organization and they have ISO 45001 accreditation, can they apply for equivalency, give you all the reports, and once it's approved, would the buyers accept that? I think that's a common question I'm seeing. Would the buyers accept the equivalency as, you know, when they specify it's core certified, would they accept the equivalency? That's what the question is asking.
So we actually are encouraging the buyers to work with us and to ensure that if anybody's submitting ISO, is to seek out that, especially if they only require, if they are specifying core, for those who are submitting with ISO, is to ask us to do a review of it, you know, to make sure that it does meet the requirements. So we are communicating with the buyers to encourage that. So from our perspective, if we are granting equivalency, there should be no barrier from the buyer side. Again, and the buyers are looking at international standards, of course. City of Toronto and others really prompted this early on to say, look, we have to accept more than just core, right? And with that, because of the scope issue, we're being very clear with the buyers as well, keep it a level playing field, make sure that the scope of ISO and the scope of core are the same. Otherwise, you know, things may not pan out the way that they expect them to from a health and safety perspective, first and foremost.
And I would add to that, Enzo, that if anybody's contemplating going down a road, everybody on this call will be more than happy to talk to you to make sure that, you know, the choices that you make, the decisions that you make lead to a successful outcome. The goal here is not to have you do a whole lot of work, right, be sold a bill of goods, and then come to us and say, I've done all this, why am I not? Why don't you grant me equivalency, or why can't you do that? So we just want to make sure, if you're unclear, just call us, you know, send us an email. We'll guide you down, you know, if you're a construction firm, either Enzo or David, we'd be more than happy to help you along, because our goal is to make this a successful journey for you, not a frustrating journey.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for expanding on that, Ron. And so one of the questions with the equivalency they were asking is, how long would it take to get the equivalency? So when they submit all the documentation, how long do they have to wait for that?
Yeah, I don't want to misquote it, so I'll have to get back to you, but it's David Steinshifter is our manager in core, and the timelines are more established there. I don't want to make a mistake there and tell you it's a week or two, and it's I believe our timelines are similar to the core internal application, which I think is 60 days.
Thank you so much for
so
that.
Plan ahead essentially is the message.
Awesome, thank you. We will take a couple of more questions. I think John is asking if an organization has completed topics with the current advisor and then the advisor is replaced with the organization, still receive credit for the topics completed. I'm assuming he may be asking about excellence because that's not clear as to whether he's talking about excellence or core. So who wants to answer this question? I think I have the answer, but please go ahead.
That's probably wrong.
I heard that it was about topics in the excellence program, but I didn't quite get the question. So
Well, just to clarify it, I think what I would recommend this client is they could reach us for the details specifying the question. But if they are talking about completing a topic, they do need to make sure the topic, despite who is looking after the topic, it should be completed in its entirety with the supporting documents and the evidence story. Despite who's looking after it, doesn't matter, as long as they have the evidence story and the full detailed supporting document, then it should be fine.
That's right, Sobi. So we have a digital portal where the evidence is submitted and Wsib validators review it. And that's, of course, in conjunction with the provider.
Thank you, Rod. And I think most of the other questions got answered. So the last, actually, there's a message for Ron. Threats of Lives thanks Ron for all your effort to ensure workers come home healthy and safe each and every day.
Thank you.
The Prevention Office does a tremendous amount of work in keeping Ontario a safe workplace, places safe, and Kate and Richard and all of you do a phenomenal job in supporting all the stakeholders and the employers to ensure they maintain a safe and healthy work environment. Thank you so much for all that. And so IHSA's team has been awesome in supporting clients get their core and training and everything else. And David, you, OGCA, I mean, out of all the associations I have been with, one of the most engaging and, you know, ready to roll up their sleeves to actually put out solutions for their members. So all of you do a phenomenal job. Thank you so much. And if there's no further questions, I thank each and every one of you. And my kind reminder for all the participants who joined today is decide where you're going to start the journey. It is a journey. It is going to take time, but you do need to start the journey. Set your GPS, and compliance is not the be all and end all. It's just a starting point. You know, as you progress through this journey, whether it's excellence, SME, support through excellence to core, ISO, and accreditation, there are financial incentives. It may not be great financial incentives, but it's not just the financial incentives. And the numbers that you were sharing, David, you know, $3,600 per employee is the average cost of safety. So these are numbers that a lot of employers need to understand, because there are still many employers who do see safety as a cost center, and they need to step back and see the greater benefits that comes from it. Just like what you shared with this OGCA member who was resisting coal, and we hear the story over and over again. They resist to move forward with the safety management system, and they kick and scream and do all kinds of stuff. But once they go through the journey and get to that finish line with the certification, they step back and go, wow, there's been many other benefits that we see. Let us continue with this journey. So there are a lot of great success stories. Maybe the next webinar, we will bring some of those employers to share some of their journey and how it has benefited them. Thank you, all of you, for participating and giving us your valuable time to come and share and give us the information. So if there's any last minute comments, please go ahead.
Sobi, I would not like to miss this opportunity to thank Ron and wish him a happy retired life. Have fun. You've been excellent for the province, and then now it's family time and time for yourself. Wish you all the best in your retired life, Ron. I would like to say that. And thank you very much, all the panelists. It's a star-studded lineup today. I can't believe we got so many wonderful authorities on health and safety all together. It's for everyone to benefit. Thank you all. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, I'd just like to leave everyone with a thought that looking at cost-effective ways of training your employees and safer ways, 4S is a CPO approved JHSC training provider for the e-learning module. So if you have any questions regarding how we can support you, or how you want to stay safe or keep your employees safe, here are my contact details right on the screen. Please send us an email and we'll surely be able to help you in your health and safety journey. Thank you very much, everyone. So that's it for today. Have a safe and an awesome day and the rest of the week.